Imagine this scene. You're at the airport, boarding pass already in your hand, a new city ahead, a hotel, another country. On the way, the classic move. You step into an exchange booth to grab some cash in US dollars. The cashier hands you a neat stack of $100 bills. The paper feels dense, slightly rough in texture. The ink plays with subtle shades. The watermark is right where it should be. Even the smell, that exact one you associate with real money. Nothing gives it away. You slip the bills into your wallet and fly out, calm and confident. Now we cut to the hotel. At the front desk, you hand over one bill to pay for your stay. The administrator routinely starts processing the payment and suddenly freezes. He lifts the bill to the light, flips it, tilts it at an angle, stares into the details. And from his face, you can tell something is very, very wrong. These dollars are not just some market fake. They are super dollars. Counterfeit $100 bills made with such precision that for years they fooled ATMs, banks, and even specialists inside the US government. Now imagine that one of the most sophisticated financial counterfeits in history has been circulating around the world for decades, settling in casinos, banks, and the pockets of wealthy people, while most people don't even suspect it exists. A strange client at a bank in Manila. We jump to December of 1989, the Central Bank of the Philippines, Manila. For the staff, it's an ordinary workday. A man in an expensive suit walks in, says he represents the interests of a foreign investor, and places a stack of $100 bills on the counter. At first glance, a perfect customer story. Calm, confident, documents in order, money that looks like it came straight off the press. The cashier checks the notes. The appearance, the watermark, the density of the paper, everything is exactly as it should be. They pass all the standard tests, just like genuine bills. And yet something catches his eye. Maybe the serial numbers are too smooth, almost perfect. Maybe the condition of the notes is too uniform, as if they were just taken from a vault where they were placed immediately after printing. The employee decides not to take risks and quietly passes the stack to his supervisor while asking a polite but direct question. Where did you get this money? In that moment, the client's mask slips. He instantly loses his composure, turns around and walks away fast. A couple of seconds and he is already running toward the exit. Security can't do anything in time and the client disappears. Meanwhile, the stack of suspicious bills receives a special status. They are packaged, documented, and sent to the United States, to the Secret Service headquarters in Washington. There, one of the banknotes becomes a case with the number C14342, and from that moment, the real hunt begins. A laboratory where they talk to money. Now imagine not just checking bills under a lamp, but an almost forensic laboratory where banknotes are treated like evidence in a case involving millions. The first step is ultraviolet light. Real dollars behave in a specific way under a UV lamp. The paper contains embedded fibers and security elements that glow in a characteristic pattern. Many counterfeits are exposed right here. Either there is no glow at all, or it looks completely different. Next level, the microscope. The experts don't just want to see the design, they evaluate the printing method itself. Real dollars are made using intaglio printing. The ink is pressed into the paper fibers, so the lines come out slightly raised, and you can feel that relief with your fingertips. Then they bring in instruments that analyze ink composition. They direct beams of different wavelengths at the bill and track how the colors reflect and absorb light. The human eye won't notice it, but the equipment records the tiniest differences between an original and a copy. And finally, the serial numbers, fonts, spacing, repetition, sequencing. Any extra pattern is a reason to be suspicious. Individually, these checks only provide hints, but when you stack all the results together, you get an almost impassable filter for fakes. And here, the experts got a surprise. Instead of a crude counterfeit, they were holding a bill made at the same level as the original, and in some details, almost indistinguishable. Perfect counterfeit, and 2 microsignals. The most shocking discovery was in the paper. The analysis showed the bill was printed on a blend of 75% cotton and 25% linen, exactly the same as genuine US dollars. And this special paper mix is officially produced by only one company in the world for the United States Department of the Treasury. It's not the kind of paper you can order from an office supply catalog. The printing equipment story is no less insane. The counterfeit Counterfeit bills were printed on the same types of intaglio presses, massive, heavy, industrial machines worth several $1,000,000, usually kept under guard in state printing works where they produce securities and currency. If you take a real $100 bill from the late 1980s and place it next to the super counterfeit, an untrained person won't see the difference at all. Many professionals would miss it too. The only things that gave it away were two tiny details: a microscopic gap near Benjamin Franklin's portrait and a slightly thicker line on the lamppost on the reverse side. These two tiny inaccuracies became the key. That's how the bill received its unofficial name, the original supernote, a counterfeit at a level that was clearly not made for petty street scams. And the logical question that immediately arose was, who is even capable of this, and what do they need it for? Dollars that the shadows adore. To understand who stood behind the super dollars, intelligence and law enforcement began looking not only at the bills themselves, but at how they traveled around the world. These notes surfaced not at random kiosks, but where massive cash flows move. In high-end casinos in Hong Kong, where gamblers can lose or win the price of a villa in a single night. On Russian shadow markets of the 1990s, where people exchanged devalued rubles for dollars to save their life savings. In diplomatic pouches that cross borders without inspection, under the laws of diplomatic immunity. But the most important thing was not geography, it was quality. All these bills looked as if they were cloned. The same micro defects, the same perfectly accurate security elements, the same extremely high level of execution. This looked not like chaotic work by different gangs, but like the product of a single, very powerful structure operating for a long time, systematically, and with enormous resources. Diplomats with suitcases, and the mystery of Room 39. The next leads came from criminal cases. In 1994, 5 North Korean diplomats are detained. They are not carrying weapons, their documents are in order. But during a search, officers find $430,000. And every bill turns out to be a super counterfeit. In 1996, a woman with a DPRK passport is detained in Cambodia. And again, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the same counterfeit $100 notes. Over and over, the same bills appear with the same signature. In intelligence analytical memos, one name starts showing up more and more often: Room 39. This refers to a secret unit inside a building of the Workers' Party in Pyongyang. On the 3rd floor, according to intelligence sources, there is an office that is officially listed nowhere. It does not appear in organizational charts, is not discussed at press conferences, and is not mentioned in documents. But Room 39 is considered that very shadow financial center involved in everything that brings money to the elite, from illegal trade to financial schemes. In practice, it is a brain center tasked with ensuring a flow of hard currency for the highest-ranking people in the country. And according to assessments by intelligence services, superdollars were one of their most profitable projects. When nobody wants your currency. North Korea's problem was simple and brutal. Outside the country, its national currency was not recognized and was not wanted. People who could sell them technology, missile parts, equipment for a nuclear program, they were not interested in ideology and slogans. They wanted hard money. Above all, dollars. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the DPRK lost a key ally and a major source of assistance. The country found itself squeezed by sanctions and isolation. Pyongyang had 2 options: try to earn dollars through legal trade, or find a faster, even if illegal, alternative. In reality, the bet was placed on the second. If the world does not want to buy your goods, you can simply counterfeit the world's currency itself. According to intelligence, a person who was destined to inherit absolute power, Kim Jong-un, watched the development of this scheme closely. The more dollar flows the elite controls, the more comfortable and richer the regime's top layer lives. Number 1. A factory that is not on the map. Printing plant number 62. Now let's imagine where all of this physically happens. Somewhere far from human eyes, behind multiple perimeters of barbed wire, concrete walls, and floodlit towers, there is a territory that intelligence calls printing plant number 62, a closed production site for superdollars. Picture a facility the size of a small industrial complex, 3 rings of security, patrols with automatic weapons, snipers on towers who see every movement, cameras cameras on every corner. The central building is a 4-story concrete block with almost no windows. Inside, not offices and not an ordinary printing shop, but tightly controlled rooms where printing presses operate, along with equipment normally used to produce state valuables. The paper has its own special story. Through front companies in Hong Kong, they purchase that same cotton linen blend that is officially used for elite products and, in theory, expensive stationery. The real suppliers believe they are selling material for premium paper, certificates, luxury forms. But then the cargo goes not to a famous brand's office, but to a sealed North Korean facility where it becomes perfect copies of US dollars. The microprinting on these bills, about 1/140,000th of an inch in height, is so precise that even experienced experts found it almost impossible to distinguish it from genuine. And here comes a particularly twisted level. According to some reports, the creators of superdollars deliberately built microscopic errors into each series. These were their personal watermarks, allowing them to identify Chujie counterfeits of their own counterfeits. Each time the United States introduced a new level of security, a modified watermark, an improved thread, more complex microprinting, printing plant number 62 would, after some time, release an updated version of superdollars. In essence, by the mid-1990s, North Korea began using the dollar as a financial weapon, not merely as a means of payment, but as an instrument of pressure and sabotage. A new Franklin portrait, a signal from the United States. For a long time, Americans watched, collected data, intercepted individual batches of superdollars. But by the end of the 1990s, it became clear that the scale of the story was too large. In 1996, the United States Department of the Treasury releases an updated $100 bill. Franklin's portrait becomes larger and shifts position. The watermark changes. The security thread is strengthened and moved, and more fine security elements appear. For an ordinary person, just a new design. For Pyongyang, a signal. We know what you are doing, and we are ready to play this game one step ahead. But North Korea answers almost like a challenge. Less than 2 years later, a London bank about the first counterfeit of the updated Big Head 100. How was this possible? According to investigations, the North Korean side, through a chain of intermediaries, managed to obtain the formula for a special ink that changes color when viewed at an angle. This ink was produced by a Swiss company under strict licensing, but some pigments still leaked into the shadows. The result? Thousands of new superdollars that now copied the new design as well. Operation Royal Charm, a wedding that never happened. Technology is one thing, but the United States had another ace: law enforcement. Operation Royal Charm looked like something written by crime series screenwriters. FBI agents spent months building cover stories, creating shell companies and fake biographies, gradually penetrating Asian smuggling networks. They posed as people willing to transport anything for a good percentage: documents, cash, gold. The climax of the sting was a luxurious yacht off the coast of Atlantic City. Agents rent the vessel, stage a fake wedding party with invitations, decorations, and a buffet. Everything looks like a celebration for people who are used to expensive life and do not count money. They invite those who, according to the FBI, are tied to superdollar transportation. They arrive expecting champagne and entertainment, but instead of wedding toasts, they are met by agents with arrest warrants. Operation Smoking Dragon, 18 months underground. The second major operation, Smoking Dragon, lasted almost a year and a half. Undercover agents infiltrated Chinese and Taiwanese criminal networks engaged in smuggling everything imaginable: weapons, cigarettes, counterfeit goods, and superdollars. Step by step, they traced the route of the banknotes, how they were hidden inside books with pages cut out, how they were sewn into rolls of fabric, how they were stuffed into children's toys that were shipped legally across the border. All this work built a chain, from printing sites to the endpoints where fake money was converted into real. But one of the brightest stories from this underworld unfolded not in Asia, but in a city that itself is associated with money and risk: Las Vegas. Vegas, slots, and a businessman named Wilson. There, the FBI tracks down a Taiwanese entrepreneur named Chen Chang Lu, who preferred the Western name Wilson. In the early 1990s, he had a perfectly legal business, but apparently the taste for easy money and azart did the job. Wilson begins working closely with North Koreans, using import-export status as cover. He adored casinos, but his favorite pastime was not hitting jackpots. It was laundering superdollars through casinos. The scheme was ridiculously simple and brilliant. Wilson would walk up to cheap slot machines, feed them counterfeit $100 bills, make a few minimum bets, spending only a few cents or dollars. Then he would press cash out and receive a casino check. With that check, he would go to a cashier and receive real money back, about $90 from each counterfeit 100, after fees and minimal bets. So in a single weekend, he could turn 10,000 counterfeit dollars into roughly 9,000 real dollars. The casinos, of course, recorded everything on camera. The Secret Service and the FBI requested the footage, reviewed every transaction, matched sums, bills, time, meetings. In the video materials that later became part of federal cases, you can see an undercover agent, Bob Hammer, meeting Wilson at the Ritz-Carlton in Pasadena. A certain John Yu appears there as well, a man tied to smuggling counterfeit cigarettes who helped build the network. When the puzzle came together, the agencies struck the entire chain at the same time. The result of the operation across several directions: $4.5 million in super counterfeits seized, 87 federal charges filed, and several groups dismantled at once, groups that had been running this money around the world for more than 10 years. A bank in Macau, and $25 million that changed everything. While the FBI dealt with logistics and network connections, the United States Department of the Treasury decided to hit the most painful place: the elite's money. In September of 2005, the United States declares a small but significant bank in Macau, Banco Delta Asia, an institution through which North Korean money is actively laundered. In other words, they officially label it of primary money laundering concern. Almost immediately, U.S. authorities freeze about $25 million in North Korean accounts. And these were not abstract state reserves. These were personal funds of top officials, the very money usually used to pay for luxury, gifts, special errands, and the foreign lifestyle of the nomenclatura. Experts estimate North Korea's annual budget for foreign policy and intelligence operations at roughly $70 to $100 million, meaning that $25 million could cover the work of the entire network of embassies, special missions, and covert operations for about 3 to 4 months. Imagine how sensitive such a udar is for an authoritarian regime where everything rests on control over money. The effect was immediate. Banks across Asia, seeing how hard the United States marked Banco Delta Asia, decided not to take risks. Many of them simply stopped working with North Korea, fearing they would also be declared toxic. For a country living on hard currency inflows, this became a financial shock. North Korea suddenly faced the fact that embassies abroad had nothing to pay with. Purchases of critical equipment became almost impossible. International trade through schemes sharply stalled. Nuclear bargaining, and dependence on someone else's currency. And then North Korea resco changes its tone. Pyongyang declares it is ready to return to the six-party talks on the nuclear program. These meetings had started back in 2003 and were an attempt to persuade the regime to abandon nuclear weapons in exchange for economic assistance and gradual normalization on the world stage. The scheme looked like this. The North Korean side freezes or reduces certain areas of its nuclear program, and in return receives fuel, loans, investment, and diplomatic support. By that time, the DPRK had already withdrawn from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and claimed it possessed its own warheads. Intelligence believed they had enough material for at least several devices, while missiles capable of threatening neighbors, and potentially the western coast of the United States, were being developed in parallel. Pyongyang's condition was logical. If you want to talk about our missiles and reactors, remove the financial noose. The irony in this whole story is almost cinematic. A country that tried to undermine trust in the dollar by printing its copies became a hostage to the global dollar system itself. The more they played with counterfeits, the more they became tied to real money. The secret of the $100 bill. If you put all of this into one picture, the story feels almost fantasticheskaya. A tiny defect near Franklin's portrait, a strange client in a Manila bank, the secret printing plant number 62 near Pyongyang, diplomats with suitcases of cash, Las Vegas casinos, and a bank in Macau. All of it is one chain. North Korea turned the dollar into an instrument of pressure, and the United States responded with technology, spetsoperacja, and financial isolation. Every new security element on the bills we see today, color shifting ink, holograms, complex watermarks, threads, is not just protection from school-level counterfeits. These are traces of that invisible financial confrontation. And the next time you see a $100 bill at a bank counter, in a businessman's hand, or on the table in an expensive hotel, remember, behind that piece of paper stands not only the portrait of one of the founding fathers, but also the story of how one small country decided to play against the entire global financial system, and how that system answered. What do you think about this episode? And if you liked it, then do not forget to rate the video, subscribe to the channel, share your interesting stories, and right now I suggest you choose and watch one of the previous episodes on the channel for the richest people. There it is about luxury, wealth, and the lives of the most influential people on the planet. Thank you for watching.